Because it looks according to the wall like it's 7 o'clock.
Oh, good night after all that.
And we have 7 members present.
Here.
Yes, everybody's here. We have presented before us an agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Brandon. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Consent agenda also. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that.
Well, I wanted to make a motion on the consent agenda. I move we accept it as presented.
Second.
All right. Moved by Bill, seconded by Brandon. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. We don't have left-handed month until August, so I'm
All
safe
right.
here. I don't have to be too confused. Item number 4. Do you want to take that?
Yes, I think we have some representatives here from just coming in from the track team and from tennis that were state medalists. And if one of you coaches wants to jump up first, and Troy, go for it. Yeah, just come on over to the podium if possible. Yep, we just want to introduce yourself and your athletes. And
My name's Troy Reed. This is my 5th year coaching tennis. This is Jonathan Kosmarski, second-year player, junior. Will be a senior next year. Played #1 singles for me both last year and this year. Got second at league, 6th at regionals, qualified for state. That was his main goal for this year. And made it to the second day and took 11th place. And definitely
That's cool.
the highest place I've heard for a long time in boys or girls tennis. So
Good job,
Coach
Jonathan.
Laws?
Those of you who might not know who I am, I'm Mark Laws. I've been around here a couple of years. I'd like for all the track people to stand up, please. Got a few here that did place and some that went to the state meet and competed for us. Boys ended up 3rd at the state meet, and I'm very proud of them. Had a lot of very good individual performances and personal best, and very much looking forward to the success of all of them in the future, whether they're going to be still here with us or in college, because we got some people planning on going out down the road and doing some more track. Court Ferguson, Mickey Jensen, Brandon Bell, Aaron Miller. Did I leave anybody out? Oh, Sean Waddell, excuse me. We've got a bright future coming ahead of us, even though a couple of these guys are graduating and going down the road to do some more track also.
All right. We're very glad that you all could be with us tonight because it's awesome to see all the good things that you do, and we know it's hard to do all that with going to school and balancing somewhat of a normal life on the side. So thank you for all your hard work for our district.
Always
We're
glad to
very
see
proud of you.
always glad to see more hardware added to the display case too.
Absolutely.
Certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Item number 5. Comments from the public? Teresa? Right. Number 6. We need to talk a little bit about our final debt schedule and our savings report.
You guys may want to stick around for this. It's really interesting.
It's riveting, trust me.
Not as interesting as watching paint.
Nothing clears a room like a talk about financing. So.
I know.
Good evening, everyone. Greg Varenberg with Piper Jaffray. I appreciate the chance to be here this evening to share the results of the bond refinancing with you. And as many of you may recall, we completed a bond refinancing in November of 2012 and scheduled the closing of that issue to occur in January of this year. And at that point in time, the Series 2004 bonds that were presenting the results of the refinancing to you this evening, those bonds were not eligible for a tax-exempt refinancing under the IRS rules. And the 2004 bonds become eligible for an additional tax-exempt refinancing on or after June 3rd of this year, since we're within 90 days of the date on which those bonds can be paid off. And so We continued to watch the 2004 bonds after we completed the sale of the refunding bonds earlier this year. Interest rates have remained favorable, and so we moved forward after receiving permission from the board at the April meeting, moved forward with the preparation of the documentation for the refinancing, prepared the preliminary official statement, obtained a bond rating from Moody's. Moody's did affirm the A1 bond rating of the district. And then on Thursday of last week, we moved forward with offering the bonds to investors and locking in the savings that's presented to you this evening. I did also want to point out that at the April board meeting, the estimated savings was about $195,703, and the good news is that the final savings is consistent with that, slightly higher than that, and the black bound book that you have in front of you this evening has the final results. So if you'll turn to that, I'll walk you through that information, and you'll probably notice the first piece of information in that book right behind the cover page is the interest rate graph. It shows that we have had some volatility in the bond market. Short-term interest rates have remained relatively stable. We've seen some movement in the longer-term interest rates. This has a very short repayment schedule on this issue, and so the interest rates have remained favorable throughout this year and allowed us to lock in that savings that I had referenced. Tab 1 shows you the information related to the outstanding bonds, the 2004 bonds that are being refinanced. I had mentioned it has a very short repayment schedule. The 2004 bonds have payments in 2014 through 2017, and interest rates ranging from 3.375% to 3.80%. The average interest rate on those bonds being refinanced is 3.68%. And so with that in mind, then if you'll turn to tab 2, in tab 2, we show the results of the refinancing and, most importantly, the savings to the district from the refinancing. The first page behind tab 2 is the savings report. You'll notice in the second column from the right, we show the savings each year to the district. This savings is net of all cost and the actual amount that you would save over the life of this issue. You'll notice the average savings is about $50,000 per year for a total savings of $199,970.43. And you'll also notice that we have not shortened the repayment schedule or extended the repayment schedule. Final payment is still scheduled for 2017. And we've simply locked in a lower interest rate on the new bond issue. The old bonds have an average rate of 3.68%, and the average interest rate on this new issue is 1.27%. So it's that reduction in the interest rate that allows for about $50,000 in savings each year without changing that repayment schedule. One other thing that we look at when we look at the level of savings relative to the amount of bonds being refinanced, we look at the present value savings as a percentage of those bonds being refinanced, and we like to see that savings at least 2 to 3% or higher, just as a gauge of whether it's worth pursuing the refinancing or if we should wait for a higher level of savings. In this case, the present value savings percentage is 5.02%, so it does meet the guidelines that we look at in terms of savings relative to the amount of bonds being refinanced to achieve that savings. The following page shows the sources and uses of funds. I had referenced that the savings is net of all cost related to completing the refinancing. This page shows the funds that were derived from the sale of the bonds and then how those funds are allocated or spent. And you'll notice that the bond proceeds, we have $3,885,000 in principal amount of bonds. We have $114,354 in premium. In other words, the sale price to investors resulted in those investors paying in to the district an additional $114,000. And so we have $3,999,000 from the sale of the bonds. And then we're utilizing a transfer from the debt service fund of $71,196. That transfer from the debt service fund simply represents the interest that you have coming due on those 2004 bonds, the September 1 payment. And so we're taking that money that you've already budgeted for that expenditure, applying it towards paying down the bonds being refinanced, and then the balance of the payment to pay off those 2004 bonds comes from the bond proceeds. So then you'll notice down below the uses of funds or how those funds are spent or allocated. We have $3,996,000 being applied towards paying off the 2004 bonds. And then the items below that represent the cost of issuance or the financing related expenses to complete the refinancing. Includes our fee as underwriter to put together the bond issue and sell bonds to investors, bond counsel to prepare the legal documents and legal opinion for the refinancing. Moody's charges a fee for having a rating assigned to the bond issue. That's included. And then we also have printing and registration costs paid to the state treasurer, the attorney general, the printing company, and some other parties. So there's a breakdown there of all of the costs associated with completing the refinancing. And again, that $199,000 in savings is after payment of the cost of issuance. The $199,000, in other words, is the actual amount the district will save from the refinancing. The following pages in this section are simply some of our supporting calculations. Be glad to answer any questions you have on those pages. One question that does occasionally come up relates to the interest rate or yield or return that the investors will receive. And if you would look at that second to last page behind tab 2 titled Bond Pricing, we show there in the middle column of that bond pricing report the yield or return to the investors. And you'll notice that if you're an investor purchasing bonds in the year 2014, your yield or rate of return would be 0.48%. The yield to an investor in the year 2017 is 1.16%. We have the stated interest rate on the bonds set at 2%. So investors paid a purchase price above 100% for each of those years, and that's where we generate the premium paid into the district. And the last section that I wanted to point out before I turn it over to Dottie to talk about the bond resolution is tab 3. I thought it was interesting from our perspective and maybe interesting to the board to look back at not just this refinancing, but some of the refinancings the board has completed over the years, especially here in the last year or so. When you look at the total savings from all of the refinancings, it ends up being $2,872,831.24. And obviously that's a very significant amount of savings. The board has taken action to complete those refinancings, and that savings then obviously is passed on to the taxpayers in the district. We've also worked with Terry to look at the mill levy, not just for the current year for the bond and interest fund, but for the remaining life of the outstanding bonds. And with the savings that you've locked in, not just on this refinancing, but from some of the prior refinancings, it puts you in a position to maintain that mill levy of 12.763 mils in your bond and interest fund. We show the fund balance going at its lowest point over the remaining life of the bonds down to about 1.2 million. So you can see with that savings of reducing the expenses, or payments being made out of the bond and interest fund of about 2.8 million in regards to the savings from the refinancing, having a fund balance dropping to its lowest point of 1.2 million. Had the board not completed the prior refinancings, then there would be some upward pressure on the mill levy. But fortunately, you have benefited from the lower interest rates, at least from the perspective of locking in some savings on your payments. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, or as I mentioned, I can turn it over to Dottie and she can address the bond resolution that would lock in those interest rates presented this evening.
Sure, that would be great. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll kind of get through it, and then if somebody's got questions, we'll ask you both.
Okay,
That's all
perfect.
right?
That means you don't get to go away.
Hi, Dottie.
I'm Dottie Riley with the law firm of Q-Tech Rock, and we act as the district's bond counsel. As Greg indicated, in order for the district to lock in the rates that he's described to you tonight, the action required by the board is to pass the resolution authorizing the issuance of the bonds. That resolution contains in it all of the new interest rates that Greg previously described. It also requires the ongoing covenants that the district had in the bonds that you're refunding, in that, the proceeds have to be used in a manner that complies with federal tax law. I do want to mention that the district for quite some time, as well as other jurisdictions, have had certain disclosure requirements under federal securities law. These municipal bonds are just like any other securities that are out there being traded in the marketplace. As part of this bond issue, which was the case for your prior bond issues that we're refunding here too, the district is agreeing to provide annually certain financial information to the marketplace, which generally consists of your audited financials. And if those audited financials don't contain the same financial and operating data that was in the official statement, you also have to supplement with that information. We typically stay in communication with your staff to try to make sure that happens, but it is the responsibility of the district, and I can't emphasize enough that that's an important thing to be following. You also have certain ongoing disclosures with request to special events that might happen. If the rating on your bonds, for example, would change, go up or down, you're required to provide that information to the marketplace. There's a list of actually 13 items that you're required to disclose under special circumstances that are included in the documents. The one most likely that you would be most likely potentially to encounter would be the rating change, but there could be other items that could happen. If, for example, you inadvertently missed a bond payment, you would need to disclose that to the marketplace. And it's important that those things, that the district stay on top of those things. I mention that in particular tonight because the SEC has really heightened their enforcement of disclosure measures to the point where, they've threatened action against individual elected officials as well as individual staff members for a city. So
I got the most.
it's worth kind of paying special attention to those kinds of obligations. The resolution, in addition to authorizing the issuance of the bonds, does also authorize the execution of a bond purchase agreement with Piper Jaffray. That bond purchase agreement obligates Piper Jaffray, except under a few circumstances, to complete their part of the transaction here and purchase the bonds, obligates the district to sell the bonds to Piper Jaffray. Mechanically, what happens after this resolution is approved tonight, assuming it's approved, we prepare a number of closing documents and certificates, provide those to the staff for them to be signed by the chairman and secretary to the board. We prepare a transcript that goes to the Kansas Attorney General's office. They review the bond issue for compliance with state law. After their approval of the transcript, then we're in a position to close the issue, which is scheduled for June 27th or thereabouts. So I should know that too. So it's coming up. So we have a few other steps that we will complete, with the cooperation of the staff and with the chairman of the board to get those items taken care of prior to closing. Are there any questions?
All right. Thank you, Dottie. And any questions?
Can we go ahead and
Dennis?
move this up and so they could, since it's on the 7, since we've already addressed it, can we go ahead and make
If
a
everyone
motion
else
to
is all right
approve
with that, because we put it down in 7 for an action item. Is
Yeah, we can
everyone
do it
else
now.
okay?
I'm okay with it.
I move that we approve Resolution 104 as presented to make sure, so we can close the bonds for the savings of $199,000.
Second.
All right, moved by Dennis, seconded by David. We,
And Madam President, I will read it if I need to. but
Oh, it's
I'm-
all
26
26 pages, oh my. Let's vote on not reading it, but anyway. I didn't look this way. Did you guys have any questions of them?
No, just looking in your crystal ball, what about bond interest rates? Where are they heading?
You know, it's interesting because we've actually watched the longer-term interest rates over the last few weeks have moved upwards, and the short-term interest rates have stayed very low. Typically, when we see favorable economic statistics, that tends to put upward pressure on the interest rate, and the jobs report in May and again in June, and expanding employment base and new jobs being created, and that's pushed interest rates up a little bit. When you look at that interest rate graph, you'll see a number of spikes where it's move up and move down. And the future of interest rates is really driven by the economic data that's coming out and people trying to determine if we're headed towards a better economy, and which typically would mean higher interest rates.
Okay.
Sure beats that 7% we used to do back in the early 90s.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your attention to detail and coming to see us tonight. So, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. So it's all approved. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Terry, for your work on that, too.
Yep,
Appreciate it.
I did tell Terry I probably just need to give her a stamp that looks like a real signature. Because there's a lot of signing going on. All right, section 6.03, ORC representatives. We put a call in the paper for candidates who are interested in serving on our currently vacated position on the ORC board. That board is a 5-member board. We appoint 2 members, the city appoints 2 members, and then there's 1 member that's put out, that's voted on by the group at large. They call it the at-large position. So that group meets at least monthly, maybe a little more frequently. I know this is a busy time of year for them. And so we have 3 candidates who have sent in paperwork and are interested in that position. In terms of our positions, this one is a resigned position by ex-Sheriff Curry, and he was just starting another term, which is a 4-year term. And it is a self-limiting board in that it's 4 years and then 4 years and then they're done. 8 years is the max. And then in the spring of next year, I believe Linda Spencer is our other appointee, and she will be coming off of her second 4-year term. And so,
Spring of this upcoming year?
Next year, yes.
yes, sir.
Okay.
In 14?
14.
14, yes. So that will be another one for us to fill at that time. That was my point, so you all know the cycles that we're in, okay? All right. So we don't really have, we don't do this often, so I guess we don't have a set way that we do this. I guess we'll just have the candidates come to the mic and speak to us and tell us why they want to be on the ORC board, what strengths and talents they have, what they see that the needs are of the ORC, and go from there. So how about if we start with Tony Del Torre? We'll go left to right on our screen, if that's all right.
Yep. Alphabetical order, too? Alphabetical order, too.
Accidental.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me. I guess the reason I think that you have our outline on what we've done in the past and our reference letters and so. I think it's very important. The reason I'd like to get back on the ORC, I think that we need some continuity and experience on there. As Susan was mentioning earlier, you'll be losing another representative come next spring. And recently, there's been 2 new appointees from the city, which have only been there for about 1 meeting. That's it. Right now is a very, very important time for the ORC. And that's because right now they're beginning on this year's budget that needs to be approved by both you folks and also by the city commission. So it's an important time. I think that, and that's the reason that I'm back up here, is because I think there's going to be a lack of experience in there pretty soon. I think a lot of it is to do with, I know a lot of people think, well, it's nice to have somebody that's got new ideas and this, which is fine. A lot of people want to donate their time, and that's what we're doing, is donating our time. But still, you got to have some old goats in there to to be able to help lead the other ones through. You know what I mean? And that's one of the main reasons I'm up here. Now, if you can see, I've been here since I've served the city as a law enforcement officer for 21 years. I've served the city in many different capacities. Past president of the Booster Club, High School Booster Club, American Legion Baseball. Been a coach, Babe Ruth, youth sports. But that's just part of it. There's other activities such as arts and everything else that needs to be done. There's a lot of programs that are in the pot right now that are going to be going forward, such as hunter safety courses and stuff like this. But I think one of the things that people need to realize, and when you go onto a board or any kind of organization, if you're going to go on there, you need to be dedicated, which I am. I really am dedicated to this. I'm dedicated to the community. I'm dedicated to the ORC, and I'm just dedicated to recreation, whether it be whatever it might be. But I think one thing that has lacked from representatives from this board, from some of the representatives, has been the lack of attending meetings, not just from the last person, but other individuals that have been representing the school board. Linda has done an outstanding job. Believe me, she don't miss for nothing. But what I'm going back to too, there's other, you have one meeting a month, okay? But that's not all of it. You have to do other things. I mean, totally for the community, you have to be involved. You have to attend other functions during the day, evenings, and other weekends, and so on, which I do. Another thing is you have to be able to find ways to help the ORC in order to help the taxpayers, in order to help funding for our organization, which I have, as Mr. Skidmore can attest to that in my letter of reference, because I was very involved with the Copper family in getting their funding towards the new community center. I've also, as soon as that was built, I was able to get funding for the 2 new score clocks, which Advantage Ford donated. That was $6,000. And right before I left in May, I was able to get the funding for all of the youth baseball programs, basketball, baseball, girls softball, and everything else. I got that funded, and that was another $6,000. So I go out not only during regular meetings, but I do other things that need to be done. So, and that's one of the main things. I just like doing what I do. I enjoy recreation. I enjoy the community. I just want to help the community. And I hope these things that you'll look at, because I really like to get back on there. And I don't know what else I can do besides, I know I've got a letter of reference from the director also there. And we've have worked together. There's many times that they'll call me and I just go straight down there and do what they need to get done, whether it be signing checks or whatever it might be. So those are the other extra things that need to be done. So, and I know that anyone that applies for this position, they're giving their time, no matter what, whether it be me or anyone else. They're just giving their time. And you need to have people that you can depend on. That's an important thing too. So. But I don't know if there's any questions. I don't know what else I can say, except I appreciate you appointing me again, but it's up to you folks.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Veltor? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your interest.
Okay.
Marge?
Well, this puts me in an interesting position, but you all know me. You all know what I stand for, and my favorite thing in the world are kids and families. And I've been in education 40 years. Come next board meeting, it'll be 40 years in education in Ottawa, Kansas. Needless to say, I've done lots of things, some of which I was paid for, a lot of which I was volunteered. I volunteer now for ORC. My last surgery kind of fouled this up, but I volunteer to teach quilt classes. I have a whole idea of to go again as soon as the next leg gets going. We're going to go to do it again. I have a plan to teach boys, kids, youth, how to quilt. I've done it in the classroom as low as kindergarten. And you know, like those boys, I just say drive the car and away they go and they make quilts. So that's something that I'm planning to do regardless if I'm on the committee or not. I've been the liaison for this board to their board for, I said 10 years, then I got to thinking, I think it might have been 8. I don't know, I lose track of time. I usually go. I don't think I've missed very many unless we had a conflict of scheduling, which we had a couple of times. I'm just interested in keep on doing with kids. And also, I had to chuckle about Tony's old goat. I think, hey.
I'm glad you brought it
here's
up, Marge, because I wasn't ever going to call you an old man.
Hey, well, old goat. But anyway, I would rather focus on the kids' side, and I also would like to focus on, since I am older, I get a lot of phone calls, sitting on this committee to theirs. I got a lot of calls. A lot of people do not understand the financial, what goes through our board, through their board. They just don't understand that. And I have been very active in trying to get them to do that, evidently not very well, because we still get questions. But being older, a lot of the, especially with the new facility, a lot of the older people are interested in doing things. And I've been at the meetings, and as long as financial capabilities stay there, I think we'll see more and more growth. I'm like Tony, I'm very excited about the hunting safety. I have a grandson that's thrilled to death. And it used to be when I first moved here with the kids little, it was ball, but it isn't ball anymore. It's a lot of other things. And I also am really interested in the after-school programs, the fact that we're going to be gone half a day every Wednesday, and the use of the ORC and their programs and their work. So I'm just interested in keeping on. So I'd appreciate it if you appoint me, but if you don't, that's fine too. I'll find something else to do.
Thank you, Marge. Thank you for your interest. Russ?
Hi, my name is Russ Wilson. I'm not sure what kind of goat I am. I think I'm a middle-aged goat. I am an empty nest goat, and I have definitely come to the conclusion that when you're an empty nest, you end up with more time because you don't have the soccer games and you don't have the this tournament and that tournament, and so I have recently sprung into more community action, just simply because I have the time to do so. And I do want to, give some time to the community. My kids grew up in the community. I work in the community. And so I simply want an opportunity to help give back to the community. I am on the board of Habitat for Humanity, which is also a community organization. Myself, I don't have near the experience with the ORC that the other two candidates do. Whether or not that's a plus or minus, I think new ideas are good. Sure, you have to have a foundation, but I think somebody can come in. I'm a pretty fast study, so I learn things quick. I'm good at math too. I don't have any problem with finances. So, basically I'm here because I was asked if I was interested, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll throw a hand in wherever I can. So if you guys choose to appoint me, outstanding. Otherwise, again, like the school board election, I think there's a lot of good candidates up for this particular position, and it's just kind of a win-win situation. So, thank you.
Russ?
Sorry, any questions?
One of the things we struggled with, all three of you, if you could answer, is just the communication back to us, because we appoint the members, and then we haven't seen them very frequently. Marge has been our liaison, which has been awesome.
That may be partly the reason why we haven't seen him, is because we've always had a
Maybe.
board member there.
Sure,
Except it's written somewhere that they're supposed to be here.
Supposed to be, yeah.
right.
And my part is from this board there.
Your eyes and ears and reports back.
Yes.
Well, and she really isn't on the board.
No, she's
like,
observer.
You know. So, anyway, I guess just as a comment, I would like to see that changed in the future, if I can put my plug in before we get going. Yes, Tony?
I'm just going to answer, if I can answer to that question, one thing that I've always done, whoever the mayor was, I kept in close contact with the mayor. If that's what you need, then whoever gets appointed needs to be in close contact with the president. Because I've always kept in close contact with myself and then whoever else was by the city
Okay. All
on
right.
a monthly basis and nothing else.
Well, I think it's important to come in, because again, couple, 3 years ago, they used to come in periodically, and it's probably been 3 or 4, the board members themselves,
Yeah.
not just your report.
No, it's been pretty sporadic the whole time, actually.
Right, and that might be a part of our not holding accountability either, I'm not sure, but anyway. So,
Hold their pay, I guess.
yeah, that's it. Again, we're faced with a difficult decision. It seems like this has been a year of that.
Is that later on?
Yeah,
That's later on.
7:02.
And, right, and that's what I was gonna say, is that down in section 7 is when we take action items. So it's 7:02, and we're not quite there yet. So it'll give us stuff to think about while we're also thinking about our next agenda item, which is 6.04 tornado drills. One of the things that came up as a result of the Oklahoma situation was questions, some from staff and some from the community, about our level of practice and expertise with tornado drills. And I think you have a response from Ms. Stanning from Eugene Field there. And I guess I just wanted us to be aware of that situation and the issues that are currently facing our district. I do know that we have tornado drills in every building, at least 2 or 3 times a year.
3.
Yeah, and those are all recorded, and appropriate steps are taken, and then they look at them and analyze what goes on with them and see if there's improvements that they can make. Do any of us have any questions for Brian or any of the staff about tornado drills? Bless you.
Well, it kind of bothers me that the basement can't be used because it only has a single exit. Is there a way to put a second exit on it?
Well, sure, you can dig down and cut a hole in the foundation wall, but that's gonna be quite expensive.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is that,
There is a hole in the basement wall where the coal chute used to be many years ago, and it's,
on the west side there?
Yeah, but I thought they used that with the cooling system.
I'm not sure about down in that part of the basement.
They were gonna run pipes through it.
Yeah, I thought that was gonna be done with the cooling system.
Otherwise, there's no other.
What about the loading dock doors? Are they usable?
That I couldn't tell you for sure either.
Because they don't look covered up. I was in the basement about 2 weeks ago. Might be a possibility.
I'd be interested to see if we couldn't come up with something. I
Like an
mean,
exit.
it seems crazy not to use a basement when there's one available in case of tornado.
Well, I mean, just about every house only has one entrance and exit to a basement, unless you've got an egress window, so.
Yeah, but
I mean, if push comes to shove, I'm going in the basement regardless.
we have 2 basements, but are they connected? They are not connected.
There's one on our east side and one on our west side of the hall.
And there's no connection between the 2.
Not that I'm-
So how do you access each basement?
There's 2 different sets of stairs.
So there are, So really then we need to knock a wall between the two sides.
I don't know how close they are. I'm not sure.
Can we look at that, Richard? Is there any way to look at that?
On the other side of the school, on each side of the school.
There's dirt between them.
But there's no.
There's dirt between the two basements then.
So in between the two basements, there's solid ground? That's not a real good answer.
One basement has got actually two separate areas. One's the boiler room. Then the other room used to be the old coal bins where the coal was at.
Mhm.
Where we got that all cleaned out and everything. So that room, well, I say cleaned out, some storage and stuff. Same as the other one down there where the HVAC system sits around. Something there.
Well, it would be, I think it's,
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there's any cheap fix to that.
No, I don't either.
okay. All right. Well, at least I know that we're looking at it. Everyone knows we're looking at it, and we continue to try to improve it, that's for sure. 6.05. Richard? Lease or purchase buses? Do we have content? Because I don't see any.
Do what?
Did you have a attachment somewhere for that?
It was in the memo.
Oh, it's in the memo, that's right, okay.
It's not attached.
All right.
We have increased our growth quite a bit, and that's requiring something to be done with our special ed bus situation. Our original two buses that we bought have gotten a lot of miles on them. They're getting pretty expensive to maintain, continue to maintain. Even with those and the two that we bought a couple years ago, we still used out of the fleet 3 vehicles full-time, which became rather expensive and having to pay mileage for the other activities that we have going on with teachers or coaches or whatever. So we went from beginning of last year transporting around 31 or so kids to 89 by the end of the year, 89 different stops. These kids this last year started, I'm not sure what you call it academically, but they go from different schools to different school to different school, and we pick them up, and so all throughout the day we're running buses for these kids. So it required a lot of use of our fleet vehicles. So we put out a solicitation for bid. We met with Brian and Tom Parks and Deb Sprudy from the Transportation Department, and we felt like it was advantageous for us to go ahead and purchase a couple more sped buses with the lift gates. The lift gates on the older buses are a constant repair and fix, not weekly but daily most of the time. So we put a solicitation for bid out for those back on May 1 and got that information back in. And we also had them include in their bid package what a 3-year lease would be, like we did on our other ones. I think we made our last payment on our lease buses this last spring, this year. Yeah, was our on the first 5 route buses that we bought. So that payment is no longer, and as well as the sped buses, we're also asking for 2 of 71 passenger style buses to replace 2 of the ones that we not only spend a lot of money on, but is going to require. We tried to include some sheets there of what all is wrong with those buses. Some of those buses, those big diesel motors and those transmissions are very expensive, and we could fix the bus up probably for half the cost of what a new one is, but we've still got to a 15-year-old bus that will need work otherwise. So those are the two solicitations. I'm not sure if this is up for action right now.
Be next time.
Okay, so I did include all the pricing there. We had the bid openings, and I included the different ones that bid on the buses, whether it be the 71 passenger or the wheelchair bus. Any questions?
So you're gonna be looking for 2 71 passenger and 2 14+3s.
That's correct.
So 4 buses total.
That's correct. And my concern even there is, like, as we told Brian when we had our meeting, we've got, what our issue is, we have 3 vehicles that are going in different places all over the district and or maybe Paola or Kansas City or whatever, and they all have to be there about the same time. Well, my concern is, even if we replace these 3 vehicles with 2 buses, we got the capacity to haul, but I don't know if we got the time logistics to be able to take care of everything we need. We might have to still come back, depending on what, in the fall, to see if we might need to add like another Explorer or another car of some
So
kind.
you've got the capacity to haul, but not the route options.
That's right.
And the lease payment option, how does that compare to our current payment, or is that just completed?
Well,
3,000.
I think we was at, what, 127 for the first 5 there we had, and these,
Or 103?
yeah,
Are these straight lease or lease purchase?
lease purchase. We own them after 3 years.
One of the things that we'll want to look at a little more closely, especially with the sped routes, assuming you approve the hiring of the special ed director that we're recommending tonight. The gentleman is coming from a district of 52,000 students, so you can imagine they have quite a bit of transportation going on. We would like to look a little more closely at our special ed routes and see if we're doing things in as cost-effective manner as we can. We also might want to look a little bit at staggered start times. So that's something that we do want to study a little bit more in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll have a firm recommendation for you on the 24th as to whether it's 1, 2, 3, 15 buses, who knows?
All right, cool. Just because we got done with the car payment doesn't mean we got to take on another one, you know. I'm just, just saying.
No, I understand that.
But I do understand that we're really tight.
Yeah, and the maintainability, I mean, the cost of keeping those old buses running too, you have to look at that at some point. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Andy, 6.06.
Okay, we've got a discussion item for purchasing a few items. If you see fit, it would be helpful if we could escalate that to an action item and get it approved so we can get these items in and configured so they'll be ready for the start of the school year. We're behind just a little bit with missing that last meeting, so it'd be helpful if we could speed that up a little bit. So we're looking at 60 iPads. This would give us enough iPads to have a cart for the middle school, Garfield Elementary, and 2 at Lincoln, combined with some of the iPads that we're not going to be using at the high school next year. Eugene Field Elementary thought it would be best to use a full-fledged laptop, so we're going to get kind of a miniature-sized laptop instead of iPads for their building. So looking at 30 of those to equip them with a laptop cart. And then we've got
the little ones?
Yeah, they're a little bit bigger than an iPad, but they're pretty small. And then projectors. We've got projectors all over the district that are 7, 8 years old that the bulbs are getting more and more expensive and not lasting as long because the projectors are so old. So we would like to get new projectors for the high school. And the reason I'd like to put them there is we can get projectors. The one that I spec'd out here, you can actually use the Windows tablets that we've got for the teachers and wirelessly present over them, similar to how you would do an Apple TV with an iPad.
How many projectors do we have at the high school?
In the whole district, pretty much every teacher has one. In shared rooms, just about every classroom has one. So there's probably 55, 60, I would guess, at the high school.
Okay.
And then we told the high school staff what our plans were, and Dr. Cox collected a list of who would like to have the capability to project, and we've got a list of about 20 teachers to do that with already. So we'll start with those 20 and then take the projectors that we take out of there that are still have some life in them and use those as replacements at our elementaries and middle school.
Right,
So
how does
those are
this,
the three pieces. I kind of just put it all into one
Give them the
proposal.
crap.
Got everything, the quotes were on the other page, if you want to see the official quotes. And,
Why the laptops as opposed to iPads at Eugene Field?
we kind of talked to each building and said, here's the pros and cons, and it's all about what they want to do with them. So Eugene Field felt that they needed them for Compass and some different, what was the, Read Naturally.
Read Naturally, some of our interventions, we have two labs. One of them is a teaching lab where there's a technology teacher in it. And our second lab, when it comes testing season, really can't be utilized for just about anything but testing.
They wanted
And so
to-
we don't have any other way to data process or.
Their teachers wanted to have the full-fledged keyboard and be able to do word processing and have the full version of Microsoft Office. So the limitations of the iPad are the things that they wanted to be able to do, whereas the other buildings wanted to utilize the iPads for the apps and the supplemental ways of learning. So
In comparison between Eugene Field and the other two buildings, do the other two buildings have more lab access?
Lincoln has 3 wired labs, but they have about double the students, I believe. And Garfield has 2 wired labs. Eugene Field has 2 wired labs, so it's pretty close. I did a student per computer ratio, and they were all, Lincoln was actually the worst off just because of their size.
But so there's no continuity between the schools. I mean, like, they're not using the same programs, using these for the same things. There's no set curriculum for why
Well,
these are
right
going to
now
use.
there is. This would be the first time that there would be a little bit of discrepancy. And we kind of, all the schools went back and forth. It was kind of a hard decision, and just kind of
Just seems,
talked to the teachers and tried to figure out what they needed for their building.
seems to make more sense to me to go with something
Common.
consistent across the district and have fidelity across the district.
Yep, I would
we-
agree with that.
I would-
I have concerns about having one school decide, well, we just want to do it this way.
Yeah.
And that doesn't fly into the common educational approach that the district has been the board has been trying to reinforce, is that we want fidelity between all 3 buildings in terms of curriculum. So if we put one building into laptops when everybody else is getting iPads,
That
why?
makes sense to me too.
Why?
It's kind of a,
Shannon, does it have anything to do with that you're on probation, that's a bad word, but all that program that you're working, does that have anything to do with it?
Not really.
Okay.
We purchased Read Naturally last year as an example. We purchased that program as a reading intervention for our district. So all the schools have it. Read Naturally won't work on an iPad. So to be able to use that piece of technology to support reading intervention, in that realm, it wasn't going to work.
So how are the other 2 schools doing
Also,
reading interventions
the
then?
state assessment at this point can be accessed on a laptop and can't be done on an iPad. So we just felt like it was more versatile for us to be able to, and the laptops that we used to have, the battery life was awful. And Andy has researched in the laptops that he was gonna purchase, that's, an advantage, that the battery life is very similar to an iPad. Maybe not quite as long, but it's much better than what we're accustomed to.
I think that another way to look at it is, instead of looking at laptops and iPads, just look at it as their mobile cart, a mobile lab. So whatever device they have on their mobile lab needs to be the device that is going to get the most utilization for that school. And yeah, I see your point, and I totally agree that it makes sense that all 3 elementaries especially be the same. But in this particular case, Eugene Field had a different need than the other 2 elementaries, and the iPad didn't fit their needs. So that's kind of
Just that our goal of our board is to be consistency across the district.
Yeah,
And so
I have a
whatever needs
problem
are
with
being
that.
at one school should be the needs of all schools.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Eugene's the one that's wrong. They might be the right ones. But to me, it should be one way or the other. Everyone should have the same thing. Everyone should be using them for the same purpose.
It's kind of a hard decision, and all 3 schools went back and forth, and I just tried to present the facts and say, here's what this can do, and let the building's principals decide what was best for them.
Okay, well, then let me ask this question, because I think this is the next question that has to be asked. What is it that Lincoln and Garfield are going to be doing differently with iPads that Eugene Field doesn't want to do?
I think they want to use them more of, use the apps and use them as, you know, there's different apps they can buy, download, more of a teaching games, more of a supplement to their classes, be able to take them and be more mobile and read books on them, or take them and make a movie and kind of use them more as projects, and they're going to do their testing. Like Lincoln, for example, has 2 labs that it's primarily used for testing. That's where they're going to do their testing. They do their word processing in their classrooms, because every classroom is also equipped with 3 or 4 computers? 4 computers in every classroom.
How many computers have you got in your classrooms? 4?
So right now, every classroom at all 3 elementaries has 4 classrooms. Lincoln has 3 wired labs, yeah.
And we talked to Andy specifically about the use of apps, because we knew that's what Garfield and Lincoln were doing with them. And so we, asked Andy, what about the apps? Correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but most of the apps that are out there can be found on the internet in some shape or form, so they can be saved as a favorite and still utilized on a laptop.
I have a question. Maybe I missed, you might have said it, I missed it. Who did you ask when you said you asked the buildings? Was it the teachers or the administration?
We
or
had a tech committee,
Okay.
and then every building
Mhm.
had someone represented from that tech committee, and then
Okay.
those people went back to their principals and their buildings, and we got input from the principals, and
Sure.
we even offered to come out and talk to the staff, which Eugene Field is the only one we actually did that for, where we went out and talked to the staff and answered their questions.
And before we said we wanted laptops, I wanted to make sure that the teachers really got a chance to see them and look at them and make sure that they were well informed, because I can't speak to it nearly as well as Andy can.
It was really unanimous at Eugene Field, every one of them.
Sure.
Every one of the teachers wanted the laptop instead.
Okay.
Well, I just want to make sure we're doing what's right for this district and for those kids.
Yeah.
And if that's really the direction they want to go, I'm okay with that. But as Brandon has mentioned, our goal is to have fidelity across all 3 elementaries. And
I think that was our goal too. At least my goal
honestly,
personally, but-
Andy, like you said, from one device to another, you're still having technology on the mobile cards.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, I
The worst
guess.
mistake you can make is to give them something that they don't
They're
want,
not gonna
and it just
use.
sits in the closet and
Right.
doesn't get
Absolutely.
used.
And this is also a dual purpose, because with your 2 classrooms, they're still going to use these devices for testing, correct?
I think
I'm
they,
sorry, I was talking.
the devices at Eugene Field could be used for testing if they needed
Right.
to.
Yes.
So-
That's what she
Right, 'cause
said.
they're
That's
just
one of the
miniature
goals
laptops,
that you're
right?
looking at.
Yeah,
with
they
this.
could
But
be.
the iPads
The
couldn't be.
iPads, not necessarily. Now, they're saying that state testing will be available there, but right now we're moving
Isn't.
forward as if it won't be.
And the difference is you've still got hardwire labs at Lincoln with 2, correct?
They've got 3 labs at
They have-
Lincoln.
3 labs.
They have 3, but 1 is used by a teacher for all the classes, so they have
But
2
for
that are
testing, you
available
got
for
2 for
testing.
testing. This one, you got 2 mobile carts at Eugene Field. This is a dual purpose, because if you went all to iPads for these 25, then you wouldn't have these 25 devices for
Yeah.
testing.
And the other thing is if they're testing in the lab, because they can't do it on the iPads, they also can't do Read Naturally on the iPads, which is a district program that we purchased for reading intervention. We can only do it on the computers.
And
We can't do one of
Lincoln did
those on
ask if we could
iPad.
put together a bank of about 18 computers in one of their learning areas where they could do Read Naturally, so. I think all the principals know. what
Honestly,
they
I just want an understanding as to why there was a
Yeah.
difference between
Yeah.
Eugene Field and the other 2 schools. And I think you've presented that very
And
well.
the other thing is, we purchased laptops, and I wanted to make sure that our primary teachers were not feeling disserviced by that, because obviously an iPad would probably be easier for a kindergartner or first grader to use than a laptop. I was just researching with Dr. Kraus today to see if some of our focus school money could be used to purchase iPads, because I'd really like to put a couple of iPads in my kindergarten and first grade classrooms that can be used for reading intervention or for reading support in some way. And so I have a little bit of focus school money left that I'd like to.
Do we not
purchase
have any extra
which
iPads that we can do that with?
I haven't been able to talk to Andy about yet, but Dr. Kraus checked, and that can.
Once we put all these carts together, we won't have very many extra. Communities and schools, and I don't know how these can be used, just got a grant for 60 iPads too, so that all the elementaries kids will at least have access to those, but it may be limited to after-school programs, I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, there's definitely an argument to be made that the iPads would be nice in small groups. I could see a classroom teacher having 1 or 2, and when you do group work, one group gets to work on the iPads, one's working on the desktops, one's working on some other project, and it's all really about what the teachers and the principals want to do in their buildings. And I understand the argument of everything being the same, but sometimes they have different needs in their buildings too.
I agree, and thank you for kind of clarifying why you went that direction versus the iPads. That's really what I wanted to know. So I appreciate that, thank you.
Well, and I
Well-
sit on Curriculum Advisory Committee, and the tech committee the tech teachers and some of the aides even presented there in terms of the curriculum that they were using on their different devices, and it's fascinating all the things they can do, and they're trying to do that across the district also. So I know there has been thought given to unanimity throughout the district, so. I don't know. Do we have room in the capital budget?
Yes.
I believe so, Terry. We talked about it, and we're pushing it to the max, but we haven't dipped into, we're able to do all of this from the 12-13 capital, and our 13-14 is gonna be fresh.
Aha.
Madam President, is it your desire to look at this as an option to move up, which, because missing Memorial Day weekend, we should address this so he can get them in place before school starts?
I would like to.
I
I
would
mean, I
make a
think we've
motion.
hampered him some.
If you would mind, Madam President, I would make a motion to approve the purchase as laid out to, one, meet the needs of the technology of our district and get it back on track to approve the purchases of the iPads for $25,500, the ThinkPads for $13,650, and the projectors of 25 in quantity for $17,750.
Second.
Okay, motion by Dennis, seconded by Brian. Any discussion? Further discussion?
One thing I want to point out, Andy and the technology team and all the teachers that have participated has done a fantastic job, because the emails can fly really quick. And I can tell you, being on the email serve, you can get, when one topic comes up, you've got about 50 emails to read through on the different opinions very quickly. And there were some very good discussions. So I think we're making some wise investments. And again, we do have some logistic issues at Eugene Field because of space and the computer labs being mobile. We've always had that issue for equity. So again, this gets them in a dual purpose to get them by for a while.
Sure.
Now that Oleg Krylov, that's our representative.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Oh, he's not in Chechen or anything
No.
like, okay, all right.
Chicago, well, I don't know what his original nationality is, but he lives in Chicago.
All right.
Don't ask, don't tell.
CDWG is really good to work with.
Okay.
All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2. 7-0. Just want to make sure I got it counted right. Okay. Moving on to 6.07, we addressed the board positions as representatives to the different schools, the different committees.
Before we get too far into that, would somebody give me the times that each of those meet?
High school is at lunch. Ottawa Middle School is like 5 o'clock. Eugene Field is 5:30, thank you.
And do you know in what days?
That's usually said at the first meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know the middle school is like usually around Wednesday.
I will point out that I was wondering when that high school committee was going to meet, and I never heard boo from them.
From the high school psych council?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So if they met, I certainly didn't know
Tuesday
about it.
nights at 6 is like the,
I
every other
don't-
month.
Okay.
Okay, and Lincoln?
Lincoln is like
Tuesday night at 6, like every other month.
first Thursday at 4 p.m. or something like that.
Okay,
And I could never make it because I always work Thursday evening.
okay,
Bad one for me.
all right. Well,
I'd-
then,
Okay.
go ahead. Yes. So, and the other committees that are there, as you can see, is PDC, District Technology Committee. Dennis has served and is very versed in that. Curriculum Advisory Committee is really interesting, or I find it interesting. Of course, maybe I'm a nut job, but it's good to see curriculum and it's so cool, all the stuff they're doing. I mean, you guys just it would blow your socks off. Government Relations Network, Brandon, and boy, that's not one of my gifts. Neighborhood Revitalization, David's been doing that. ORC, Marge and Dennis have been splitting that, and Brian's been our hearing officer.
You been on the government?
Does anyone have a
You've been doing
burning
this.
desire to go in one of those positions, serve in one of those positions?
Well,
And we'll have 2 other board members.
yeah, I'd be more than happy to
Consider.
stick with the district hearing officer. That doesn't meet very often, so. that's
Okay.
doable. But I also like to be on one of the psych, I've been on a psych council in a while, so.
You can have the middle school. Would you like the middle school? Okay.
Hey, when do they meet?
They meet like at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. Can you do, you
I
can't
think
do Wednesdays at 5?
we need to make sure that Susan and Tim are,
Susan. Linda.
Linda, I'm sorry, Linda and Tim.
Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Yeah.
Sorry, get their,
I
get their,
answered to
But I can do
Linda.
the high
It's
school,
fine.
one of the elementary.
get the input. I was looking at what I was writing.
Well, I want to stay on the high school, but I'd just like to
Well,
actually make a
I'll be
meeting
one of
this
the
time.
elementaries.
Garfield will be open.
I'll do
Yeah.
Garfield.
Eugene
Well,
Fields.
then I'll do Lincoln.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Tim will take Eugene Field.
Who's
And
taking
his-
Lincoln?
Brian? Kane?
That's why I wanted to stay on the high school. I got kid in every grade.
I thought you got, didn't you take Garfield?
I took Garfield.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then you were taking Lincoln, right?
Yeah, and Tim.
Tim's
took,
got Eugene Field. Who's got middle school? Do you
I
want to do middle
had,
school?
oh,
Huh?
I'm not really doing elementary, but I guess I can do middle school. That's like one meeting I have to take.
You know,
Data
it'll be
heavy.
good and refreshing for you.
It's data heavy. It's awesome to look at the data. I mean, they do a lot of data stuff.
They love data in the middle school.
These I can meet. And then I'll take over for Marge, since she was faithful. I will
All right.
replace her faithfully.
interested
and
in-
You're
then-
gonna take,
So you're going to do ORC?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're going to stay on technology, I hope?
Yeah.
Would you? Okay.
I'd be interested in governmental relations if,
Oh, good.
That's
Phew.
fun, you get to hobnob with politicians.
Yes, you're so
Great
good at
time.
that. Oh, man.
yeah.
I'd like to stay on curriculum advisory.
I cannot do professional development. They need it an awful time.
You want to do PDC?
Okay.
Yeah, give her PDC.
Great volunteer.
Um,
Linda, AKA Susan, right?
yes.
isn't Susan your middle name?
In another life, it probably was. CTEC was Dennis. Dennis, did you go to that?
I never got an invite on it,
Okay, so that's 2 things. The high school has an invite.
but I don't think we met. If we did, I'd missed
They
it.
meet twice a year, once in October and once in April, I believe.
I think I made the October one, but
As I see, you went to one last year. 'Cause
Tim?
you
Yeah.
raved about it.
I was
Do you want,
excited.
do you want to give that one up to Tim?
Sure.
Tim? You want to do that one, CTEC?
It's a
Careers
meeting
in
that sometimes
technology.
you get invited to and sometimes you don't, depending on the timing. It's a night meeting usually with the CTEC and all the.
It's about all the trades, the
Industrial arts program.
industrial arts programs at the high school, like the health careers and all those things, and it's
Auto Tech
auto tech.
meets twice a
Twice a
year,
year.
once in October, once in April.
and once in April. It's usually an evening meeting, okay. And if you can't, we'll
We'll tag team.
swap it out, yeah. Neighborhood revitalization, David?
I'll stay on that. That's easy.
Okay.
Would-
ORC we got,
Who's on district technology? Dennis?
yeah.
And who's doing ORC and the advisory?
I was planning on staying
Dennis?
on it.
At one and the same.
And Bill, you're doing government relations?
Huh?
We're the
You're doing
same.
government relations?
No,
Same.
no,
Is that right?
Really?
Not really?
You're different.
they're not the same because I filled Mr. Bork's position on the advisory.
What's the difference?
Okay.
You never met, did you?
Do we need to,
We never had an
Back up.
advisory meeting, did we?
all right. District Harris. Oh, Brian.
Then we can
Oh,
go party.
advisory meeting?
That's right. We'll be at the sandbar.
Okay.
Good meeting.
So is there an advisory committee? Okay, well, then maybe that's why we're not invited.
Well,
There is
that's the
one.
one I filled the unexpired.
Term.
Well, we can just, why don't we just make it one and get ORC and then we can always have a
Yeah.
backup?
Yeah, unless it's in your bylaws that it has to be there. Okay. Okay. So, I don't know, I haven't looked for that in the bylaws. Okay, thank you all very much. Board reports, I guess I would like to start out this section 6.08 just briefly. We're going to have 2 new board members coming on and a new superintendent starting on July 1st. And so I thought it might behoove us to kind of pair some people up. And I asked David if he would like be a good contact person for Tim to kind of be a touch point if you've got direct questions or you're thinking, well, what does that all mean? Because He's vice president currently, so be kind of a mentor thing. And
I'll give you
Linda,
my
if
contact
you could-
information, just anytime you have a question, you ask.
Yep, so in case like for history and all that kind of stuff. And Linda, if you could, with Bill, I asked Bill if he would do that for you.
I was gonna ask you what all the acronyms mean. You always,
Yeah, so you'll be able to help him along.
yeah, if you could help me, that would be.
Who's
great.
mentoring
I just
who?
felt like it was going to be with a new principal would behoove us to make it a good,
mean a new
smooth
superintendent?
transition. And oh, what did I say, principal? I'm
Yep,
sorry,
that's okay.
superintendent. Excuse me. All right. Not that we won't all answer questions, but it just seems better to pair somebody up. All right. Other board reports.
Marge, do you have one? Because then
do.
I want you to go first.
Okay. Ottawa Recreation Commission met May 15th. We meet in a couple of days, so because we didn't have our meeting, this is a late report. They have 2 new members, which you've already heard, Richard Brune and Dennis Tharp. And one of the most exciting things, Delatorre already talked about it a little bit, but the sponsorship from Ottawa Ford, I think that is outstanding. That we have someone that steps at the plate and does that to that degree of finances. That's wonderful. The American Legion came and they now have signed a contract for $1,000 per season. They had looked at all what people pay and then decided they needed to up that, and then now they have signed the contract, and now it's all done, which I think it took 2 or 3 meetings, and I'm glad to see it over and done, and supposedly everybody happy, and good deal. I think that's about it. The ball teams seem to be quite plentiful, except in the one section, and I just forgot what that section was, but the neighboring towns and the neighboring rules and all of that, but they are having some games between, help me out.
Alden, Wellsville, West Franklin.
And what group is that?
Williamsburg, pardon?
What group? What boys group is that?
Those are ages 9 through 15.
Yeah. And so we're getting to see a little bit of travel for those kids, not on a travel team, which is really great as for my expectations, because it enables all of the kids, not to go all of those places, but at least one of those places. And so it was really good to see them get to
But
do
none of
that.
those are very far either, so.
No. And it's because of the membership is down, so we have less teams to play and things like that. So I think that's my report.
Okay. Other reports.
Okay, Brian and I met with the teachers negotiating team, kind of wrapping some things up. We're down to essentially the last item, which would be salary. We have some discrepancies between our position and theirs in terms of what's available for raises. And we're going to be looking at that again on the 20th. That's
Next
me
Thursday, a
tapping.
week from Thursday, yeah.
That ticking sound you hear is me banging my fingers. This is a very live mic. But other than that, it's been a very collegial process to this point. And then, of course, when you talk about money, things get a little contentious, so.
It's always hard. Okay. Other reports. Moving on to Brian.
Just one thing, it's been a busy few weeks in terms of personnel. We've been hiring lots of people. We've had a number of late resignations. The only licensed positions that we don't have filled, we had a recent resignation, the life skills teacher at the high school and a counselor at the high school. So those positions have recently been posted, and we're gathering applications for those. The other thing that I want to call to your attention on the sheet that you have with the employment on the top half, second name from the bottom, Brenda Wigger, transition coordinator, has agreed to work with us, is excited about the possibility. I would ask that we take her off of the report for tonight. She needs to request from the Three Lakes Board a week from tonight that she be released from her contract. She assumes that they will release her, but we can't officially hire her until she's been released from her current contract. So she's excited about working with us, and hopefully her name will show up on the 24th, assuming that they release her on the 17th.
Okay. And all these positions that are here are not additional, they're
No,
just
there's nothing
swi-
new.
like
Those
upset
are
the fruit basket.
replacements.
Okay.
Replacements.
Can you tell us anything about the SPED director
Um,
in public
SPED
session?
SPED director, yeah, we had, it was fairly late in the year in terms of the opening. We had 6 applicants for the position, 2 that are very, very qualified, very highly qualified. We interviewed both of those candidates and offered the position to a gentleman who was the executive director of special ed in Colorado, in Cherry Creek. I believe it is a very affluent suburb of Denver, about 52,000 students in his district that he was responsible for special ed services for. He's retiring from Colorado, is from this area originally, and so we're very excited about having him join us. I think he'll bring a different perspective. He said they had, I think, 6,000 or 7,000 kids on IEPs in his district. I think with that amount of kids, he's probably seen it all.
I was gonna
And
say,
so-
but there's a lot of special ed happening.
Yeah, he's probably seen it all, and so I think he'll be a very nice fit for us to keep us moving in a positive direction there.
Great.
Is he moving to town, or is he moving to Lawrence, or, you know?
That I don't know.
Okay. I shouldn't ask him.
Did you have a question, Terry?
We made several revisions to the personnel report, and Dr. Krause, you mentioned, I just wanted to make sure I did get the new kindergarten teacher on there, and that would be a new position.
Allison?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on.
Right, I'm sorry, the third one from the bottom there, Allison Thompson, we looked at our kindergarten numbers from Roundup. Even if only what rounded up showed up, we would have had 22.8 or something like that kindergartners. We keep a spreadsheet every year comparing what rounds up to what shows up, and over the last 5 years, there's been an average increase of 7.8% or something like that. So if we had an average increase, we would have been looking at 26, 27 kindergartners, which sounds like a recipe for disaster. So we opted to hire an additional section of kindergarten, another kindergarten teacher, and that will be housed at Garfield. We're converting the art room to a classroom, and art will be taught in the commons area, the cafeteria.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for that art program. But, so we rounded up
203, 206, Shannon, do you remember the roundup number?
Something, no, I don't remember.
I thought it was
I saw-
203,
Oh,
but.
okay, maybe. I thought I saw
And so we're projecting maybe 220 or something?
Mhm.
Our other sections are right at 185 to 190. And
Right.
so it was 10 to 15 already above our other sections, 15, I think, above our other sections, something
Mhm.
like 205.
15 above and likely to grow.
Yeah.
So does that give us, that'll give us 9 sections?
That'll give us 9 sections, 10 sections of
10.
kindergarten, and also second grade next year, correct?
Second grade has 11.
11.
Okay.
9 of everything.
Where are all these kids coming from, is what I want to know.
All over the place.
Everywhere.
We're growing.
It was busy 5 years ago.
More school.
All right.
Yeah, that's right.
Moving on to section 7.
The economy's down. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Been busy. Did you have a question, Dennis? I'm
No, I'm
sorry.
just gonna I'm surprised Bill didn't catch this. I thought we had Coach McCall being the shortest term
exactly.
basketball coach for boys, and
Yeah.
Kelly Fisher making a
Now,
takeover, but I'm
I
glad to
saw that,
see
and I
it.
was I didn't want to.
Bill, that kinda disappointed me. I figured you'd spot that one.
No, I'm all in favor of women stepping out into unfamiliar roles, and I think that's great if we hire as men's,
Yeah.
boys basketball coach.
All right, moving on to section 7. 701 is completed. We were done with that, correct? You got that down right, Teresa? 7.02, appoint a volunteer representative to the ORC board. I would entertain motions.
And
Um,
I have a question. Does March have to recuse herself from this vote, or?
She would.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Do I need to leave?
No, you don't have to leave.
No, I
We-
was
Say
already
it to your
planning
face
on
as
that.
well as behind your back.
Yeah, we've talked about you a lot in the past.
That's fine. Oh, good, huh?
I know you've returned.
Well, Madam President, I move that we accept Russ Wilson in the interest of having fresh ideas and someone who's enthused about serving the community as our board-appointed person to the ORC.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Brian and a second by David. Discussion?
You know, I'm getting really tired of these 3 people, all awesome category,
I know.
and having to
It's
try to make
terrible.
a decision. It's getting harder and
Very
harder.
gut-wrenching, isn't it?
Marge will do a real good job too. She's definitely shown her loyalty to.
Oh, there's no
to
doubt,
that
Marge, but-
organization by
Absolutely.
going to all these meetings for the several years.
I just happen to personally like the idea of having Marge back in front of kids again instead of having to deal with all of us adults.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 6-0. Okay, Russ, you'll have to get with Mr. Sink.
Does he have to
about
sign any
partic-
official paperwork?
I don't know.
He's got to sign Tommy's first paycheck.
Yeah. I don't know if there's official paperwork. This is a
Who's
charter territory.
the chairman of that board right now?
Dan Step?
Oh, okay, okay. And he's the at-large rep, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Section 7.03, Richard Smith. You've got some good news on the roofs?
I hope so.
We're counting on it.
Hopefully did you get this copy?
Yes, sir.
Can we see it again?
Yes, sir.
We, after our last board meeting, 1st of May, we did send out those specifications that we talked about, what to do as far as which way we was going to go when we went with the retrofit or overlay per specifications that we had drawn up. We sent it out to 5 different contractors that are very well known and also very reputable. The one at Garfield came back with 3 bids and 2 no bids, and we're recommending Delta Innovative Services for that project. These projects, just to recap here a little bit, none of them, Garfield or Lincoln would start until September 1. Is as quick as they could mobilize and get to the job sites.
Is that the same for both companies?
Pardon me?
Was that the same for both companies?
Yes, yeah.
Richard, were there any exceptions to the bid specifications from either company that you're recommending?
There was not. They did have, we had included replacement of decking per square feet in case there's anything that's ruined, but we don't have that issue, so that was really a null point.
So there are no, so they're going to bid the job per spec, no exceptions.
Correct. And then, of course, Garland Roofing with Greg Leslie is going to, they're giving us a warranty on the roof since we're going with the retrofit or overlay of the project.
And you worked with that company before?
Innovative Delta.
Yeah, I've worked, actually, Delta's doing the Douglas County Courthouse for us right now. They're a very good contractor.
Where are they out of?
Pardon me?
Where are they out of?
Kansas City, Kansas.
So what's the time frame? We're gonna start in September. What's the time frame? I think most of this can be done while kids are in school.
Yeah, the
Yes.
metal work could be, you're probably looking at a good 3 months of work on each school.
And this will affect each building in what way? Because school will be in session.
Right, yeah.
We thought we would set up a loading, unloading area, and so that there would be wouldn't affect anything very much. And of course,
There's
they'll
gonna be a
have,
cordoned off section for materials
The
and.
contractors will have to put up temporary fence and protection for the kids. That's
Mhm.
what'll happen.
How much noise will interfere, how much noise interference are we expecting?
very little.
Screw guns is what you're gonna hear the most of, and that'll be fastening down the subframing, is where you're gonna hear most of that noise. And most of that should take place, they'll be wanting to start fairly early in the mornings, a lot of that'll take place up to and a little bit past the morning classes, but, and then everything else that's on clips and will be in the rest of the day when we're setting panels.
So you think it won't leak?
I'm sure it won't leak, it just wasn't drawn right before. It was a mess.
Now, on
No
on
kidding.
Garfield, the prices were fairly close. What's the discrepancy in the pricing on Lincoln?
At Lincoln,
Yeah, why is there a $200,000 discrepancy?
it's mostly set up and getting the panels to the roof at Lincoln because they're very long curved panels.
Special order?
Well, no, they'll be run on the site, but it's mainly lifting them up to the building. So some are capable of doing it faster than others and have the proper and good cranes and equipment to lift the panels without damaging them.
Right.
But I mean, Boom Brothers for Garfield's 1.166, for Lincoln is 1.141. If you're saying that Lincoln's a harder school to access, why is that not a little higher?
They're non-union as well. And Delta is union. Just the process of the bids are still pretty tight bids on.
Are they using the same material for both buildings?
Yep. Yeah, one's a straight panel, one's a curved panel, but the same panel style.
And what's the roof warranty?
30 years. No dollar limit, so there's not a prorated warranty.
And they're all bonded?
And it will, yeah, it has to be bonded.
Okay.
Yeah, they furnished the bond when we opened the bids.
Bid bond?
There's
Yeah.
a bid bond on the bids and then a performance payment bond for the
Mhm.
project.
I've learned that the hard way.
Ask if it's a 2-pipe or 4-pipe system.
Now, do we include in the contract with these companies, if we approve it, that final payment will be based on,
Yeah, you won't want to release any money without my final inspections and, I mean, you want to, on a project of this length, you'll probably want to release progress payments, but
But all based on your inspection?
that'll all be based on my inspections and photo documentation, which would be in Richard's hands and anybody who wants copies of those documentations.
very
And
good.
after a rain?
Yeah, that's always a good time too.
Okay. All right. And 7.04 is, just hang on, it's another roof? It's Eugene Field roof, is that right? Is that a separate item because it was at the bottom of the
Yeah.
Yes.
things? I didn't know how
Yeah,
that
that
went.
wasn't a part of that litigation, that was a capital outlay project that was budgeted.
We put the specs out for all three jobs.
All three?
And then whoever wanted to bid the different positions. But Garfield and Lincoln was one item, and then Eugene Field flat roof is another.
And- Okay.
And we had this one in our budget for this year, the 290.
Well, we had originally, we've had it in there for several years, but it is 30,000 more than what we had figured it was 5 years ago. So it is 30,000 more. We had originally figured it at 260. That was we didn't bid it out, but we guesstimated it what it would run. So 5 years ago, we'd figured it at 260,000 and it came back at 290.
Are we doing patch jobs on that roof currently? We just hold it together?
We've been doing patch jobs for 5 years.
So then the 290 will be to do what?
To complete
new
the flat roof, new flat.
So a new roof on the flat portion of the building?
Yeah,
That's
it was
correct.
tearing everything down to the existing concrete deck, putting new tapered insulation on it so it'll drain. Two of the roofs don't drain very well. One of them drains pretty well as it is, but new insulation and tapered insulation, and then a new 30-year again roof assembly.
And that would give Eugene Field, the entire building then would be.
It would be new roofed?
We put a new one on last summer, or on the pitch part,
Yeah.
and then the flat
For
roof
that.
this year, yeah.
And all this will be inspected by you?
Yeah.
And me.
Yeah, and we photo document everything for you guys' records, and that way there's no finger pointing at the end of the deal for contractors blaming subcontractors.
Okay. If you add up the two numbers for you, Garfield and Lincoln, and then the epoxy flooring, which is next on the list, it's about $147,000. It looks like we've got an excess of $71,551. That brings us to 2.5 million. And then there was an additional settlement of the 250 with Earl, right?
Yeah, Lincoln Garfield came to 2.2813 and 147 for the full.
What was the settlement in the lawsuit?
Okay.
2.5 plus legal expenses.
So we're probably about
2.4.
2.4.
Which is about even.
Okay.
So if we do the Garfield roof this summer, where does that put us in capital?
I mean, Eugene Field.
Eugene Field, I'm sorry.
Well, that puts us under one.
It's put us about 1.6, Terry? 1.6, 1.55, somewhere in there. Depending on what we do with the additional 71,000, if we use it toward legal expenses, yes. If we use it toward capital, then we'd be about 1.6. So we'd be between 1.5 and 1.6, depending on how you choose to use the overage from the lawsuit after those three projects.
Okay. These are action items. It's in section number 7. We can take them all together.
Well, I think we ought to do them separate since
separate?
they're listed separate. I move that we approve the Garfield Lincoln roofs in the amount of $2,281,000, I think is the number.
Yeah.
Second.
All right, moved by Dennis, seconded by Brian. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Eugene Field. It's at the bottom there for 290, is that correct?
Madam President, let's skip to the Eugene Field and do the epoxy floors and then come back to Eugene Field if we could.
Sure, that would be fine. Epoxy floors is 05.
Is that cosmetic only or is it structural?
On the floors,
Yeah.
depends on which school you're talking about. There's certain areas that's going to be completely, like at Garfield, the cafeteria, kitchen, and the hallways in that area right there have all bubbled from the old concrete. So that's completely torn out and removed and replaced. And then the cracks in the floor is a repair. That floor is not completely replaced, at least for this price. I do have the pricing for the replacement of the whole thing, but
That'd be $400,000.
yeah.
What I'm getting at, Don, I guess, is this to make it just look better, or is this, I mean, we're gonna have major problems, people are gonna be tripping and falling, uneven floors, things like that, I mean,
Oh, no, it should be,
no, I'm saying if we don't do anything on it,
if we don't do anything. Well, there's cracks in the floor.
right? But what I'm saying is that a cosmetic thing, it doesn't look good, or it's actually
Cracks
dangerous?
in the floors, is
I
it
feel-
cracks in the tiling?
Pardon me?
Is it the foundation
I can
itself
understand.
cracking?
Yeah, I'm trying to-
Well, it's, what it is, it's
Look better to make it safer.
construction cracks.
And they're separated.
And they have moved and separated, and the epoxy floor that we used originally,
So it's sectional cracking, basically.
that's right, around the beams that holds up the, you can see it around the post, like at Lincoln, right down the middle of Garfield's hallways.
I mean, I'm not a construction guy, so I'm just asking, are we making these repairs so it doesn't look like we have cracked floors? Or are we making these repairs because these cracked floors are gonna make people trip and fall and hurt themselves, and it's gonna mess up the integrity of the structure of the building?
Is it a need or a want? Is it?
Is it
for-
making it look pretty, or is it making it safe?
I'd say more pretty.
But I think if we've gotten a lawsuit settlement and we don't use that to repair them, to put it back to what the condition should have been originally, we're not doing our jobs to make the building last longer. I mean, it might be cosmetics, but if we got a lawsuit settlement to fix them, I think we're obligated to.
I'm just trying to
spend
get
on
the full.
What's the guarantee that it's not gonna happen again?
That was gonna be my question.
The only company that gave us any guarantee was Desco. This is Nick.
Desco buildings, we're gonna treat all the cracks, so we salt cut around and caulk the cracks with the flexible materials so that it
should handle, should be able to handle the movement. We do that quite often on projects.
How big is it?
Last on the job.
So kind of, you'll have basically an expansion joint in there, basically.
Right, usually about a 1/4 inch wide, depending how.
That's what it looks like they left out and why they cracked initially, is it looked like they didn't
No
soft cut
expansion.
your concrete to make expansion joints, and then they epoxied right over them, and then your concrete naturally cracked where there should have been an expansion joint.
Right.
So, I've got some experience in concrete, and to me, it looks a lot like that's what happened. And these guys made a horrible expansion joint epoxy once they soft cut that to fill those, so your concrete can move naturally.
We gave options for repairs, and we gave an option for redoing the floors.
Mhm.
So if we would choose a repair, what's the time schedule on that? How would that be done? When would it be done?
But we'd like to, do-
That'd be done in the summer.
still this summer,
Okay.
yeah.
I know I've had experience with Desco in my own personal career, and they're a good company. When they do it, they live up to it.
I see the trucks around.
Our guys are all in the Carpenters Union, they're all been with us, they're employees of Desco. So we sell our own products with our own people. Do the work.
So which are you asking us to do?
The repair.
Repair for 147, 149.
Yeah, to do the repair at both schools. And replacement of Lincoln's cafeteria floor is in that price of 147, as well as Garfield's cafeteria floor.
Madam President, I move that we accept the bid from Desco Repair to do the repair on both buildings.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by David, seconded by Dennis. Further discussion?
What is your warranty period?
Our warranty is a 1-year warranty, and that protects you from any kind of bad installation. When it comes to material problem being put in, but
Okay.
a lot of companies give 10-year warranties, but when you really go to talk to them, there's really not a warranty at all. We've been doing work in the area for a long time, and we'll take care of anything that's our issue, but we can't control something that could change in the building or that type of thing, so it's a 1-year warranty.
All right. Other discussion?
There's a mobilization charge, $2,500.
Yes,
Is that included or not? That's not included in the total, right?
yes,
Oh,
yes
yes?
it is. If they have, the only reason why I put that in there separate like that, if we did only parts of the repair, then we decide we want to come back and do the rest of it next summer, it's another $2,500.
Okay.
So if we do it all at once, it saves us $2,500.
Okay.
All right. There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Back to 4. Eugene Field.
My question is, was this part of our original list of allocations for capital outlay for this year?
It's been on the list for 3 years at least,
years.
maybe 4.
Yeah, it always gets bumped somehow because it's a chunk of change.
Yeah.
And flat roofs, when they're done, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
This one's done. I mean, it's.
Well, we got the flat roof is a single ply
It's a membrane, right?
membrane, and anytime you walk on it, I guarantee we're gonna have another leak the next day. I mean, it may be just a small cut, but that cut produces leaks, in the back of the gym. I mean, it just everywhere where we walk at. So with the system that we're wanting to put on there is like what we did at the high school, which is a high quality roof. And like you said, he guarantees them for 30 years. We should not have any more issues with that school building, with the tuck pointing of the brick and the windows that we fixed, and everything that we've done to that school. We finally have reached a point where it's going to be watertight from the outside.
What systems do we have on the roof, on the flat roof? Anything?
No, we just get there to clean, so we can clean the gutters and stuff like that.
But there's no, obviously HVAC.
We don't have any
stuff,
units up there.
Yeah, there's nothing on those.
No gas lines
Yep.
ran across
There are
it.
a lot of trees that have
Sure.
debris falling on them there.
Yeah.
That's your biggest issue.
Yeah, we
at
take,
school is the trees and then the kids throwing stuff up there.
What?
yeah, we found a couple of basketballs the other day.
I can't imagine that.
And we have the funds to handle this?
290,000.
Capital worksheet attached?
No,
We haven't seen
not
it.
there.
Not this week.
It might, was it in the memo?
I think I put it in the memo.
I think
It might be in the memo.
I've searched, I can find a lot of PDFs, but I can't get it up in
I
the
can't either.
search in the library.
Budget additions, reductions, is that it?
Staff, that's not capital.
That's staff.
And this is one project that needs to be done in the summer before school starts, because you're talking about hot tire mopping.
Right.
Yeah, we would not do this once school gets started.
May 24th has contingency report. In the,
Since then, though, we've had final revenue data. It just didn't get attached. We're going to be rolling over the year here fairly soon. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
But you think we do this, it'll take us down to about 1.5 or so?
Yeah, and that's,
1.5 and 1.6.
that's an uncomfortable place for me to be,
The
but,
capital contingency report?
Yes.
It's under the financial report.
thank you. Yeah, there we go.
And that should have the updated revenue, and it should have Andy's expenditures out. Andy, can you find it under the financial reports?
it'll be under consent agenda.
Yeah, it's in there. Capital contingency fund report.
3.01.
Capital contingency report from May.
We read more about them spending money, so if you look at there at the far,
All right,
what is it?
1786.
That's what I'm projecting after we,
Do Andy's.
the rest of the technology.
So that's
Then
1.4.
we'll subtract the 290 from there and
Be 1.5.
add the 70 back.
Okay.
Mhm.
71,
It'll be 1.6.
1.520.
1.6, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it is what it is.
Okay.
We're gonna be seeing littler numbers all year
Oh, next
long.
year, yeah.
They're getting small.
All right, so with that, do we have a motion?
I would move that we accept the bid for the Eugene Field roof repair.
Second.
Moved by, whoever you are.
Bill.
Bill,
Susan.
seconded by Brian. God, I'm getting tired. Oh, my. Further discussion? I apologize.
How long does it take to do it if we give you the bid tonight?
By the time you process tax exempts with the state and stuff, the project is not very big. It'll take a month.
So if you don't get it done by July 31st, we can get another 10% off?
Oh, that'd be cool.
I mean, just a reverse contract deal.
Go. Hold some back. Hold some back. Okay.
And no weather days.
Well, they have to be done before school starts, because you don't want hot asphalt around.
Mm-mm.
You
Okay.
we don't ever want to do that.
All right.
So, taking it back to them tomorrow morning, obviously, you're not gonna call them tonight, probably, but, a week, 2 weeks before they start?
Probably 3 weeks before they start, by the time contracts and
Okay,
POs.
so 1st of July?
Yeah.
Okay. Further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. 2, 3, 4, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Richard.
Section 7.06, approve the special ed handbook. We had all those documents presented to us. I didn't find anything
No, I'd say that the
particularly
changes
outstanding.
changes are all minimal, and the main ones were precipitated by the changes in the seclusion and the restraint regulations that have gone into effect. And the majority of those changes in the handbook put us in compliance with that.
Do you
Okay.
suppose that with the new director, we'll have considerable changes in special ed handbook next year?
I doubt in the handbook, the only thing that, in typical years, we've left the special ed handbook till after July when they have the state directors meeting. When our new director goes to that meeting, if there's anything that's presented which would take us out of compliance with what you're approving tonight, we would bring back
Okay.
new changes, but I don't anticipate anything.
Much of it just mimics the law.
Right.
I'd move that we approve the special ed handbook as presented with additional changes to come if needed.
Okay, second?
Second.
Moved by Dennis, seconded by David. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0.
Oops, sorry about that.
Moving on to 7.07, superintendent's contract. Tried the best I could to incorporate the discussions that have been had and put them into that contract.
Our attorney's gone through this.
Everyone's attorney's been through this.
Okay.
We volleyed it back and forth. I think I shorted her 10 days on cumulative vacation. Sorry, we can deal with that next year. I apologize. I didn't realize we could retain 110. Yeah, and no, she won't get there, hopefully not in 1 year, but anyway, my fault. Didn't catch that. So any questions? The only other sticking point was the issue of, let me see what number it is, I'm sorry. Number 9.
Oh, yeah.
There was some, there are some speaking engagements and things that she may want to do. I did, when I sent the reiteration back, I wanted it to specifically state that the main work of her.
Right, devote her time and
Right.
attention and energy.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think that's unfair, and I think that,
And I think it's also good we have some representation in circles,
well,
you know.
yeah,
But anyway.
somebody aspiring to be the best they can be, that's not a bad thing. Termination.
So it's been agreed upon by her folks and her and our folks, and tried to get the gist of what you all had wanted us to do, so.
Madam President, I'd move that we accept the superintendent's contract as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Brandon. Discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Section 7.08. This is there's a need to have a 10-cent increase for student meals.
And that is for lunches only.
For lunches
I tried to
only.
change that, but the internet kept going down, Andy, this afternoon.
Andy, it's all about the internet.
How come we
That's
keep
elections.
increasing it every year? It's like goes up every year,
We
it
have,
seems like.
And we have to do that to remain in compliance with the USDA's
Mhm.
requirements. I mean, that's not our
Right.
decision.
We don't get a choice in whether or not it goes up.
I know, we just have to vote for it, but they still tell us what we're going to do.
So why are we
They're
voting
from the
for it?
government, they're here to help.
there's a formula we have to follow, and they tell you exactly how much you have.
What happens if we voted no?
We lose.
We fall out of
stand to lose.
USDA
Funding.
compliance and
Yeah, and we lose all that funding.
getting all kinds of.
Several $million.
Yeah.
So no big deal, okay.
Yeah,
But this
trust me.
hasn't to do anything with our new food service contract.
Correct, it does not, it has to do with the
Okay.
USDA.
I didn't think so.
Move to approve the 10-cent price increase for lunch meals only.
Okay,
Second.
moved by Brian, seconded by Bill. Further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 6, 1 opposed, okay? 7.09. There was a new act called the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act that precipitated an addendum to our agreement, and it's been presented there. Do you have anything you want to add about that, Brian?
No. Is this costing us more on our agreement?
I don't think
No,
so.
it doesn't. It's simply a procedural hoop.
I would move that we approve the addendum as presented.
Have a second?
Second.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Brian. Further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Hang on a second, I want to read something real quick, sorry.
Okay.
I'm reading offer or serve. Offer menu, okay. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't change it from offer to serve.
Okay, all right.
Was your right hand up or down?
It's up.
Okay. 7-0. Moving on to section 7.10, 710, here we are, and it's 8:50. The memorandum of understanding for the SRO officer. As you know, all school districts, because of the large collection of people in an area, struggle with the issue of safety. We know that we can't fix crazy, and they will, that, you know, you can't stop crazy sometimes either, unfortunately. However,
Job security for me.
yeah, we have made some attempt at helping with our SRO officer. We had one several years ago, and as our budget cuts have come along, unfortunately, that was one of them, which we didn't like, but we did at that time anyway. Chief Dennis Butler has worked very diligently over the past month, maybe 6 weeks, to write a grant for an SRO officer, which meant the expense for the district would be approximately $13,500. Part of this is to sign a memorandum of understanding that would go along with the grant, and also I believe they were trying to solicit letters of support from high school and middle school site councils. This would be a employee of the Ottawa Police Department, not a USD 290 employee, just so we're clear on that. And it does define loosely some district responsibilities and also the SRO responsibilities. I don't know that we'll get it any cheaper than $13,500, and we know that we're in a tight budget time. So anyway, we had gone ahead and had some discussion in the past and had some kind of just generalized consensus that we wanted to do this, and this is the actual document that we sent forth.
Other than the dollar item and the fact that it was an unexpected addition to the budget, can anybody think of a reason not to do it?
Well, we had a memorandum of understanding with the police before for our SRO officer. We had used it for years, but I don't think we'd ever run it by anybody. And so when we did, Terry sent it to our liability carriers and things, and they said, whoa, back the truck up. So we did back the truck up, and we started over on the agreement. So this is actually a new agreement recommended by their or our liability carrier organization. And
So by doing this, we're just approving a memorandum of understanding, we're not approving the expenditure of the 13,500.
Yes,
Well,
we
we're
are approving
approving-
expenditure.
I think-
You're approving it for 3 years, and the 4th year it stated that if for some reason we felt we could not pay, the city would absorb the entire cost. But yes, it would be a 3-year obligation at
Of
$13,500 a year.
So it's a 4-year program, $13,500 for the first 3, and it's subject to full funding in year 4. I think it was very nice to see in the paragraph, because I did not pick up that it was a 4-year grant. I thought it was a 3-year grant. And when I heard on the radio it was a 4-year grant, and seeing the actual paragraph 5, the sentence, should USD 290 in good faith be unable to continue funding during months 37 through 48, the city will bear the entire cost. I think that's a very good gesture that we should go ahead and do the program.
I can't think of a reason to say no, is what I'm saying.
It's almost a guarantee that we're not gonna have that money in 3 years, isn't it?
Well, it depends on what our governor does.
Yeah.
Madam President, I move that we approve the SRO agreement member of understanding with the municipality, City of Ottawa, and us, effective for 48 months.
Second.
All right, motion by Dennis, seconded by Davis. David, any other discussion?
Do they have an officer in mind?
No, they'd be hiring for that, and they needed, and we would know, when is it that the grant comes back? Is it August?
He said
Maybe
it could.
September?
He said it could be as late as September. What I would suggest is that Chief Butler offered up that if we would want to meet prior to that time to talk about, you know, what we're looking for in an officer and expectations, that he would be glad to set that up, and that we could begin this person's tenure when school started, and I think that would be best for kids and best for the officer if they start from day
Sure.
one,
Absolutely.
rather than coming in.
Well, it also says in item number 9 that the city encourages the district to participate in the interview process
Yep.
once a slate of finalists have been identified. So I think it's important that somebody from the school board at least be there.
Right.
Yep.
And so, like I said, I would suggest we request that that person be ready to go day one.
Absolutely. Okay.
And David, you're right, there's really not much to speak against doing this. I mean, districts that do this see benefit, and it's not just, it's better police relations for kids away from school. It's information about investigations that the police wouldn't have otherwise. I mean, there's just so many things that,
Well, and just, I mean, we're not fully expecting that a single district resource officer is gonna solve all of our security
no,
questions.
no.
But it does certainly put a presence in the district that makes it more likely that something could be prevented.
And it also adds a harder stance on truancy.
True.
Because our SRO used to make home visits and get kids up out of bed
Yeah.
and say, come on, you're coming into school, let's go.
So we want
So, I
somebody
mean,
really big.
Exactly.
We
With
don't want
big
Barney
feet.
Fife.
Yeah, big feet.
Well,
Plant a
and the
foot.
sad thing is we would have still had an SRO if we didn't have the budget cuts from the state of Kansas and the legislators not doing their job to fully fund education in the state of Kansas. So again, we're trying to get something back that we should have never had to cut in the first place.
Yeah, we didn't like cutting it. Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Executive session for negotiations, do we need one?
Yeah, we do need to.
Absolutely.
Oh.
15 or 20?
20 minutes.
20 minutes, yeah.
Go
Make it 9:20, so we get.
Yeah, make it 25 minutes to go to 9:20.
9:20?
Yeah.
Okay, Madam President, I move the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters related to employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with representative or representatives of the body, and that the board return to open meeting at 9:20 o'clock in this room. Executive session is required to protect the district's right to confidentiality of its negotiating position and the public interest, and this will be including Dr. Kraus.
Second.
Motion by David, seconded by Bill and Brian, all in favor? Raise your right hand. 7-0.
Bet you'd have to sit by
All in
Susan,
favor, raise your right hand.
A.K. Bill.
Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
7-0.
I didn't hear that, I was
All
talking.
right. Moving on to personnel.
Just make it up.
We need about 10 minutes.
Okay. That sounds good to me.
Madam Chairman, I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters for non-elected personnel, and the board return to open meeting at 9:35 in this room. Executive session is required to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual, and that Brian Kraus be invited in.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
7-0.
Madam President, I move come back into
It
open
wasn't
session.
this week.
All right,
Yeah, well,
moved by
second.
Brian, seconded by Bill. All in favor, raise your right hand.
No.
7-0.
No, it was last week.
We have a personnel list
OHS board report.
presented to us.
Madam President, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Madam President, I move that we accept the
Minus we got-
Technically, you don't have
personnel
to.
report as presented, less the Brenda
Well,
Wheeler.
that's true.
Last the Uyghur.
That's the Wheeler.
Because we can't hire her when she's already hired, but we're hoping they release.
Release her.
So they better, because she's gonna be on next time. All right, all, second?
Second.
All right, moved by Bill, seconded by David. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. Announcements. Tomorrow morning, there's supposed to be a safety meeting report at 11 o'clock, is that correct?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
10.
Okay, I cannot be there because I have a scheduling conflict.
I will be
Okay,
there.
David said he was going
Okay.
to
What time is
attend.
that?
Oh, be in court.
10 o'clock.
Big guy guys.
You're here. How long?
Maybe in Lebo.
5, 6, 7 hours.
Couple
I would
weeks.
guess 30 minutes.
I hope it's no more than an hour.
I can make it probably 10 o'clock.
Bill's gonna be with the Wolfpack.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so we got that handled. Other things? On the 19th is the city-county school board meeting, correct?
Yes.
And, huh?
City.
And it's the
is
city this
supposed to-
time. It's the
Okay,
city.
Wichita.
And I think Dr. Stroh said she would attempt to be there because I wanted her to
be introduced.
Since international
Because then the next subsequent month is our month to host, and so,
End of the
that's
year
kind of
exit.
weird to host your first time.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. But anyway, so we'll do that.
She might be here tonight.
All right, we're adjourned. Or I guess we have to move this.
I'll second it.
All right, moved by Brian, seconded by Bill. All in favor?
I'm opposed, I want to stay here.
You're opposing? Okay, 6-1. Brandon spending the night.
Sweet deal.
Somebody